Hi, I'm Marchewka, Account Supervisor at Heaving, and today I'm here with a warning. Pretty good is killing brands. AI is obviously playing a big role in our targets' lives, how they discover, how they evaluate, how they purchase, all about the intake of that content. I want to talk a little bit about output, because over the past few years, AI has leveled that playing field. With generative AI, most of us can use the tools at our disposal to generate pretty good strategy or pretty good creative. Even my mom can generate pretty good Facebook posts to share with her equally susceptible friends. So you can create pretty good strategy, but is that powerful? Is it remarkable? Is it going to be unique? In a sea of sameness where AI tools are going to continuously push ideas to that median, I want to build on the point that real differentiation can be a difference maker for brands. And for those watching thinking, like, yeah, duh, I'm bringing real examples from brands that spoke at South by Southwest to showcase how their positioning and their brand story matter more than ever. The first example comes in this CPG space from Liquid Death. And if you are not familiar, this is canned water, started as still but has since expanded into sparkling, iced tea, and energy drinks. This started as an idea when its founder saw people drinking water from spent Monster cans at a concert. And that is the crux of their strategy, position water as something that it's not. When you think about water, you probably think of babbling brooks, ice-cold mountains, and just from the start, Liquid Death wanted to do things exactly the opposite. We live in a world where the average person sees over 5,000 ads a day. And honestly, half the time I'm looking at ads on my phone while ads are playing during a commercial break on the TV. And Liquid Death has a position that grabbing attention is going to be risky work because ultimately the riskiest outcome is being ignored. It's why they are pushing creative and pushing strategy at every turn, because insane looking work can still be strategically sound. Our next example comes from Goodles, who spoke to their differentiated targeting as part of their initial packaging development. This is a brand, if you're unfamiliar, that has high levels of protein, fiber, prebiotics, other clean ingredients, nutrients from superfoods, and their original packaging team asked, like, couldn't you put some algae on there, maybe some broccoli on the package, make it brown, make it look organic? And they came through and said, hey, this is mac and cheese. It should be joyful. It should feel good in your body, and it should look delicious first. You're trying to reach a target that has a nostalgia for a simpler time, and the positioning should reflect that. And the last example as part of this first panel was Graza. And also when talking about the design of their format, they really made the point that heritage and origin is not going to be your story. Sure, if you own the farm or you're the actual farmer, you can talk about it like that, but most of the companies that are tying olive oil to their marketing and tying it to farms don't actually spend time on those farms. It's just to make people feel like you're buying something that comes from an olive grove in Tuscany when it definitely isn't. Their point is all the other bottles have olives or olive oil trees on it. Like, yeah, we know it's olive oil. So if your goal is to stand out on the shelf, they decided, like, hey, let's even evaluate how people use our packaging. It may feel silly to put a picture of a squeeze bottle on a squeeze bottle, but it helps sell the joy of cooking, and that really is the main point of what they're trying to set out to do. Their greatest advice across this panel was to get a little weird with it, or said in other words, feel comfortable getting a little uncomfortable. And I want to make it very clear here that weird does not mean random. It means unexpected, yet still clearly defined. If you take a look at this 4-quadrant chart, the top left is differentiated, but it's not relevant to your target. This is going to be that random space that I'm talking about. It's going to be inconsistent, and it's not going to be a solid foundation for your brand. The bottom right is also going to be a pitfall. You can start with strategy that is relevant to your target. The rationale may be true, but if it's not as differentiated as it could be, you're going to run into trouble. If you just did a find and replace with a competitive brand, would they be able to say the same thing? Where we really need to push is this top right quadrant, and that starts with strategy. Oftentimes, creative can push us into this zone, but our work can be even better if we start there. And the good news is we already have tools to set this in motion, and that should always stay top of mind. At a brand level, we have positioning. Obviously, this is necessary for both internal clarity and then that external consistency if you're working with partners. This begins with an understanding of the target motivation and includes that very, very focused and clear purpose statement that all work can track back to. This is backed by rationale, personality cues that not only guide messaging, creative, strategic decisions, but this is what makes your brand your brand. At the same time here, we have story strategy for a campaign or project level. And like positioning, its purpose is to really align around a single focused strategic message that every piece of work can ladder back up to. This like positioning is rooted in an audience insight and is meant to be a very clear structure that can highlight what is the key takeaway of this creative, what is the tone, what are the supporting proof points to build rationale. And this is really a space where we're pushing to include range and options that are clearly defined to guide that downstream creative. So let's pull everything together. The following tips combine thoughts from those CPG brands that I spoke to earlier, in addition to talks from other marketers at South by Southwest like Planet Fitness, Carnival Cruise Line, Taco Bell, Under Armour, Progressive, and more. So tip number 1, look anywhere but the competition. To know if you're differentiated, you obviously need to know who your competitors are and what they're doing. But to truly get inspired, you also have to look outside of that space, especially if you're trying to disrupt and capture attention. If you're a smaller brand and you're going up against people with large budgets, what do your category leaders have to teach you? They've been there first and they're likely going to outspend you. So where else is your target shopping? What are they watching? Where are they spending their time? You can look into culture, music, adjacent industries, other categories. What can you learn? What can you borrow that might make sense for your brand? Number 2, God is in the details. I truly believe that the greatest things in life are the little things, so it's always going to be important to keep an eye out for the small moments that can leave a big impact. This can come through intention and execution, like little Easter eggs for brand loyalists to find. And another example of this actually comes from Goodle's again, where all of the lights in their trade show booth that they trot around the country are actually upside down calendars. It's a small thing that fits their purpose and goes back to that main strategy of finding joy. And this ladders up to a different point coming from South by Southwest about experiential creative in general. Most brands are taking away from people's attention and data. And in 2026 and beyond, the opportunity is really being additive. How can you add to someone's inner world instead of just mining it? As digital crowds in, we're spending so many times on devices, AI is taking over. There is this trend of people craving being alive, these extreme sensory over-the-top experiences that still make them feel human. And this doesn't have to be thrill-seeking. Not every single brand is going to be thrill-seeking, but just wanting to feel something real. And it's the tiny details that can get you there. For example, over the past few years, Taco Bell has really centered their efforts and their positioning on capitalizing on their fandom. It's part of the reason why they host an annual conference to unveil new menu items and invite superfans to attend. And I'm not just talking about fake superfans, celebrity influencers like Vince Staples, who was the host, or Benson Boone, who I'm sure did a backflip at the conference, but real Taco Bell fans. They are leveraging data from loyalty accounts to invite real people to experience this event. It can also come through at the start of the process, a small target insight that becomes a big idea. And this is actually something that was activating at South by Southwest when we were down in Austin. Carnival Cruise Line leaned on a target insight that they over-indexed for comedy. And they actually installed multiple phone booths surrounding the South by Southwest event that you could call in for a joke, really promoting the fact that Carnival is the world's largest comedy club, given how many shows they have annually. It's not a space you would think of right off the bat when you're thinking about cruises, but a space that they found was differentiated. The next tip, and this is just a good one for life in general, is don't panic. And this example really comes from Liquid Death. Again, a company who is generating a lot if created based on their strategy. And basically this is about hey, for every successful content partnership you have with The Boys and Amazon Prime, you maybe have something like Sunglasses for the Dead that fails to take off. For every multi-year campaign with e.l.f. makeup, there is a Super Bowl spot that you put a lot of effort and money behind that just is not resonating or breaking through in the moment. If you are really working to push your strategy into a differentiated space, there will be points that you fail. And their point is to always keep pushing because you are eventually going to break through. Next point, consensus kills, so kill consensus. If everyone agrees, then the idea that you're talking about might be too safe. So if you want to push the limits, maybe try to make that outsized impact with a smaller investment, then safe isn't necessarily going to be your friend. The panel with Liquid Death in particular urged all of us to surf that edge of acceptable. And a lot of AI responses today will be safe because it is trained on things that already exist. So if it doesn't feel uncomfortable, you might not be pushing hard enough. You obviously need to keep positioning or strategy as your North Star at all times, but even making sure that that is unique will push the work into a more unique space. I attended a panel featuring the creative team behind the 18-year progressive insurance campaign. And when I heard that this campaign was 18 years old, I literally felt gray hairs shooting from my head. But over that time, across 18 years, dozens and dozens of productions, they realized that the safest, what I'll call client-approved lines often fell flat. This is copy that they poured hours upon hours into that just didn't work. And this is where this idea of the flow state comes in. Early on, they decided to also capture the stuff that didn't make the final boards, or really let Stephanie, and that's the actress who plays Flo, her real name, just try some things out. After all, she actually was a trained improv actor, and actually a lot of the other actors that they have integrated into this campaign over the years also came from that space. But they found that these spots were, number one, more memorable. They tested better when she just wasn't being the perfect insurance agent. Maybe she was a little mean, she had a little depth. They felt comfortable getting a little uncomfortable, recording multiple options and finding out what works best in the edit and in testing. Point here, good enough isn't. Several panelists made the case that AI is best used as a jumping off point, but not necessarily your destination. These presentations really argued that the future of marketers in general hinges on us becoming editors or operators instead of specialists. Yes, AI right now can write a piece of content for you, but you need to determine if it's good or if it'll receive positive engagement. It's still going to require that human judgment and taste because there's always going to be an opportunity to make things better and not settle. This one is small, but it might be the most important. So many presenters made the point that teams with passion, mutual respect for one another can go on to create extraordinary things. Or said another way, how you do what you do is just as important as the work that you're doing. When something goes right, celebrate the wins. When something goes wrong, don't point fingers. When you have good relationships with your coworkers, with your partners, ideas are easier to share, and more importantly, candor is going to be easier to express. So this is a hint, like, hey, if you don't know someone in your workplace, maybe just walk and get a coffee sometime, even if that's really hard or you're really busy. If you're bouncing off of ideas off of other people, it's going to make the work better. So in summary, like 3 things to do next week. It's Monday morning. Number 1, always strive for differentiation. Take stock in that positioning, take stock in story strategy, and keep that top of mind as you are evaluating work. Number 2, use the tool, do not be a tool. AI agents can help you be excellent, but you are still the operator controlling it. And number 3, hopefully the easiest, grab a coffee. Just get to know the people and trust the people that you work with, because those unique voices will ultimately lead to unique and differentiated ideas. So with that, thank you for watching. Be sure to check out more Heaving Insights throughout this site. Thank you.